Okay, so today, since it's my final general meeting as the chair of the conference, I decided instead of giving a chairman's report on the activities of the last 3 months, I'd think about the last 3 years. So in reflecting back 3 years ago, before accepting this responsibility with which you've entrusted me, I recall seeking the counsel of my predecessors upon whose shoulders I've stood. What they told me was that this is the most difficult time for the conference, that the Jewish people are divided and facing existential threats in Israel and in America. Now, I'm not one for incurable optimism, but I thought to myself, well, welcome to the last 3,000 years, right? Yet here we are, still together, not without threats, but arguably stronger than ever. A light among the nations with a Jewish state that shines brightly among nations. Has it been boring? Well, let's see. We've gone through the dawn of an age of acceptance from Arab neighbors, divisive elections at home and in Israel, a global pandemic, and a generational change in the Conference of Presidents leadership. Just an average 3 years on the job. A few weeks ago, Rabbi Ari Berman, president of Yeshiva University, asked me what it had felt like to be the chairman of the conference. It so happens that his uncle, Julius Berman, was one of the past chairs. And, Ari has this kind of outsized appreciation for the role. And he was asking this question in the most reverential way. So I told him it's very, very tempting to get caught up in the ego of being in the position, but that in fact, as an individual, the chairman is no more important or less important than any other committed Jew. You get called upon to do something and you just do it with all your heart and all your soul. So he says to me that this reminds him of his favorite passage from Megillat Esther. It's when Mordecai approaches Esther with the news of a terrible calamity that's about to befall the Jews, and that she must go right away to the court of the king and convince him to prevent this tragedy. Of course, Esther refuses, saying it will surely only result in her own death. So Mordecai tells her, do you think that if you do not go, that Hashem will allow the Jewish people to be erased? No, he tells her. Hashem will choose another messenger to save the Jews, but you, Esther, will live your life with the full knowledge that you could have been that messenger, but failed to respond to the call. And Esther did then go, of course, and the rest is history. So we hear the call and we act. But whatever we've accomplished, we've done so in unison. All of you, from your respective organizations, have committed yourselves to sacred work, and you deserve gratitude and recognition. We get lost in our criticisms and squabbles, but it is amazing commitment by the likes of all of you that keeps the conference as a thriving body for the good of the Jewish people. And what is it that we've accomplished? Well, Ron Dermer spoke about the important role that we as a conference played in building support for normalization with the Arab countries, including the Gulf states, that contributed to the Abraham Accords. We helped facilitate the Eastern Mediterranean Alliance between Israel, Greece, and Cyprus, plus the USA, that stands as a bulwark against Turkey's hegemonic intentions, an alliance that many other nations now want to join in with. We've helped foster the burgeoning ties with African nations and elsewhere. We've met with presidents and prime ministers and royalty, with secretaries of state, foreign ministers, and diplomats of every stripe, with generals and journalists, and an array of other leaders from every continent. We've also brought together Jewish communal leaders from every continent as well. We've met with Iranian dissidents and with policymakers from America, Israel, and elsewhere, consulted with Mike Pompeo and with Benny Gantz, with Gabi Ashkenazi and with Tony Blinken on the sanctions regime and the threat of Iran. We fought the fight against anti-Semitism and BDS and brought members of the conference together through the Anti-Semitism Task Force, which resulted in a tremendous show of collaboration and unity. This led to the adoption by virtually all of our members of the IHRA definition, among other joint efforts. We've engaged with young leaders from our member organizations, and we've been on the spot following tragedies such as the Pittsburgh Massacre and for celebrations like the signing of the Abraham Accords. We've spoken out against hatred and commended public demonstrations of philo-Semitism, such as honoring Sheikh Mohammed Al-Isa, who is leading the renewal and reclamation of brotherhood between Muslims and Jews. And when we couldn't travel to the global hotspots and couldn't meet in person due to COVID, we brought leaders on topics of vital concern to the Jewish community to inform and educate us on the issues in close to 100 briefings and seminars. But above all, we've embarked on an historic transition. Malcolm announced in the months preceding my candidacy his intention to start the transition to a new CEO for the conference. The notion of transitioning from such a legendary figure was daunting. Malcolm had amassed a global stature and influence that the Jewish world could ill afford to lose. Who would qualify to follow him? And who would even want to? Some said one would want to be the one who follows the one who followed those big shoes. The first and most obvious choice turned out to be the final choice. When recommended names started pouring in, one name stood out. But I was determined for this to be a thorough and transparent process. When the search committee interviewed William, he included a pictorial history of his career, and with a wink at the end, a picture of him on his first political campaign at age 7. I looked at the picture and said, William, that was when you already knew you wanted to be the CEO of the Conference of Presidents. The conventional wisdom was that the incoming CEO and outgoing CEO would not last 5 minutes together. I must confess, I was bracing myself for this outcome. As much as I wanted the twofold contribution, it seemed less likely than Middle East peace. But lo and behold, this has been a crowning achievement by William and Malcolm and should serve as a lesson to us all. The Jewish people have wrestled with internecine strife throughout our history, which was often our undoing. Let us learn from these lessons. This is not a time for divisiveness. It is a time to come together, to respect our differences and work together for our common good and for that of the future generations. Just like Mordecai told Esther, if we do not do it, Hashem will find others who will, but we will have to live with the knowledge that we missed our moment. Once again, I want to thank William and Malcolm for being such outstanding partners with me, as well as between themselves. I want to thank the small but elite, tireless conference staff, Carolyn, Rachel, Ruben, Gabe, and Ezra, who punch way above their weight and are consistently a pleasure to work with. I want to thank my predecessors for their guidance, including Steve Greenberg, who was so helpful to me in the beginning of my term in preparing me for this role. And I want to thank Diane Loeb, who I'm confident will do such a great job that I will soon be majorly overshadowed. I want to thank my amazing wife, Sylvia, and our fantastic kids and their spouses for putting up with me and my absence throughout this period. But above all, I want to once again, thank all of you for all you do for the state of Israel and the Jewish people at large. And in the words of the late Reverend Al Green from one of my favorite songs of all time, let's stay together. And I turn it over to you, William.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Arthur. Thank you for your warm words. Thank you for your service. Everyone is muted, but I'm sure they can join me in adding the applause to thank you for that. We're going to have just a few moments to recognize you for your tremendous achievements as our chair, Arthur, and we're going to hear first from Diane, and then from me, and then from Malcolm, and then we have some other friends who are going to join us. So with that, let me pass the baton to our chair-elect, Diane Loeb. Diane.
Arthur, thanks so much for those wonderful comments. It was actually hard for me to figure out where to begin. While I'd seen you in action as chair of the conference, we first started talking in depth about a year ago. And our relationship, both with regard to the conference and friends, has really only grown during that time. As all of you know, the chair-elect was a new position. So Arthur and I were exploring together how to best communicate and make the chair-elect period most effective. Aside from the many Zooms that Arthur referred to and that you all saw, Arthur and I developed an excellent one-on-one relationship. We talked at length frequently about topics relevant to the issues, Israel, Iran, anti-Semitism, and the operations of the conference, so that I could come into my role fully prepared to take over. We also got to know about each other's families, our concerns for our health and their health during the pandemic, and we shared our professional histories as well. It's been an outstanding year for me, in large part because of Arthur's generosity of time and of wisdom. So I tried to think of 3 words to describe Arthur. And Arthur, I hope you'll like these. The first word is inquisitive. Arthur is immensely curious and reads broadly about the issues that we care about. He frequently sends me very interesting articles from think tanks or the press that shed light on a particularly complex issue. In every arena, he doesn't hesitate to ask the difficult questions. Arthur, please continue to send those articles and to share your views. The second word is direct. Arthur says what he thinks, and I welcome that because he answered all my questions fully and candidly. He's also very direct when speaking with the many people with whom we interact, and he isn't afraid to challenge a statement made by an international official or a politician when he believes that they misrepresent the facts. And this is an important part of the chair role, and I saw a number of those occasions over the last year. He's been a role model for me in that regard. The third word is actually 2 words, so I cheated a little. Committed leader. Arthur is an incredibly committed leader. You can reach him at any time. I always got a quick response. He was always willing to engage when I had a question or wanted to debate something that I'd heard on a conference Zoom or in some other venue. He is incredibly committed to the Jewish people and also to maintaining the vibrancy of the Conference of Presidents. It hasn't been easy to lead through this pandemic. We've all had to adjust our behaviors and learn new skills. Arthur has led by example during this period, assuring a seamless transition to Zoom land, no interruption in the critical work of the conference, and doing everything he could to keep our connections active and intense with global players as well as each other. I know that Arthur will stay engaged with the conference as he becomes the immediate past chair, stays on the executive council, and chairs the nominating committee. I'll value his advice as I move forward and will also value his ongoing friendship. Maybe one day in the not too distant future, we can even have an in-person dinner together with our spouses. Arthur, thank you for everything you've done for the Conference of Presidents and for the Jewish people and for me personally. It has been an honor to participate in this work with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Very, very kind. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Arthur, I will now join in applauding your outstanding accomplishments as our chairman. You've served with distinction and dedication during an extraordinary time, presiding over behind-the-scenes efforts to push for historic Arab-Israeli normalization and capably shepherding our transition from in-person events to Zooms as our trusty MC for, I think, as you said, literally almost 100 of these virtual meetings. You've adapted to new and different responsibilities as chairman brought about by the circumstances of this once-in-a-lifetime, God willing, pandemic, successfully leading the conference through an unprecedented and uncharted period. Prior to COVID, the groundbreaking mission that you led to Saudi Arabia was a key prelude to the Abraham Accords that would soon follow. On a personal note, from your membership on the search committee that selected me to your critical mentorship as I adjusted to my role, we developed a deep relationship that I fondly reflect upon and will always cherish. Your guidance has nurtured my growth into being CEO, and your trust and confidence in me has meant more than words can express. You're absolutely correct when you describe the challenge of following the great icon, Malcolm Hoenlein, and I will let you know that your stewardship and your mentorship and guidance has been a key ingredient in Malcolm and me having the relationship that we have, which will lead to continued greatness by the conference. To conclude, as you return to private life, you can take pride in all that has been achieved under your leadership. You will be dearly missed, but we know that you will remain active as a past chairman, and we look forward to many years of your continued involvement with the conference. May you go from strength to strength, my friend, and thank you.
Thank you so much, William.
We'll now turn to Malcolm Hoenlein. Malcolm.
it's remarkable to be at a conference meeting with all these nice things that have been said. I was thinking about what should symbolize my remarks, taking something from Pesach. First thing that came to mind was Moror, but I decided I'm not going to do that, but instead draw inspiration from this week's Torah reading, Parshas Tzav, where Aaron is commanded about the bringing the sacrifices on the altar. And there are two phrases that are used in terms of sustaining the fire. One is Ala Mizbeach, where it says the fire has to be sustained on the altar, and then Tu Kadbo, in it, that the fire has to be kept in it. And these two words really have great significance and meaning, but for us as Jews, and particularly for what Jewish leadership must do. A Jewish leader has to have a fire in them. It has to have the dedication and devotion and commitment to sometimes put up with all the things that you have to put up with, but more importantly, to take on the concerns of the community as a whole beyond your own interest, and to sublimate your own interests at times, to see the greater good, and to be able to advocate whatever political or partisan views you have, whatever particular biases or prejudices. Every chairperson had to put them aside in order to represent the conference as a whole and live up to its responsibilities. And indeed, you did that. And as William said, you did help set the tone for the transition, helping us both and all of us working together in real partnership. You've been a friend and a mentor and a colleague in the truest way that Jewish leader should be. And I know that it's hard sometimes to put aside your personal interests, to be selfless instead of selfish, to be able to see what the times demand and what a leader must do to make sure that the fire that burns in them is sometimes Ala Mizbeach, that it has to be made public, that you have to be willing to challenge some of the leadership, and talk truth to power, but to make our views known for the world to see what we believe, what we strive for, to speak out against those who seek to violate or diminish our values, our standards, our interests. There are many times that this, in fact, has been true during your extended tenure, which represents, I think, the respect that you have earned across the board. I have seen Arthur up close for years before he became chairman, but particularly in these last few years, see the hours that he keeps. We're able to speak often at 12, even 1 o'clock at night. We exchange emails, and William as well fits into that pattern. I'm sure, Diane, now you will become an insomniac with us, that the fire burns in his heart and in his soul. And when necessary, he brings those out for everyone to see. And sometimes it may not be always pleasing for some, but they understand where it comes from. And we know the personal commitment of Sylvia and to Arthur, and certainly reflected in the fact that their children be served as lone soldiers in Israel. What greater testament can there be to what they taught and what they shared and the values that their children saw in their home? On a trip that we took, I think it was the last trip to Saudi Arabia, we presented an item, as we always do, to one of the leaders. And Arthur said to me, boy, of all the things that we've given, that is one. I think he used more colorful language, but that is one thing I would like as well. And so Arthur, we were able, through the miracle of 3D transmission, to reproduce that from Saudi Arabia and to have a copy sent. And thanks to the collusion of Sylvia, who hopefully is bringing it into you so that everybody will see it.
Is this an NFT, a non-fungible?
No, but the IRS is getting a copy of this, just to let you know, that we replicated this work of art in this magical transmission from Saudi Arabia. And we hope that it will represent the love and the friendship of the members of the Conference of Presidents, of William, Diana, myself, and of many others, for the amazing work that you have done. And the fact that it is a heart is also significant, representing your truth. No, Sylvia, don't get out of the picture. You deserve this as well. and thank you for helping us pull this off, and to the staff and everybody who made sure that we could get it delivered in time. But it's a dynamic picture for those who can't see it, that it's kinetic art. At the same time, by Rana Gam, our good friend, and it's something that I think shows the beating heart of the Jewish people and the consonance of the heartbeat of the Jewish people with your own. So thank you, Arthur, for everything, and we look forward to continuing to work with you for many years to come.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much. This is so utterly thoughtful. I didn't think you would actually do it, but yeah, it definitely, this grabbed me. We give out a lot of nice things to the dignitaries we visit as things that will remind them of the connection to the Jewish people and to the state of Israel. But this really spoke to me. And so you guys have all moved my heart. So thank you very, very much.
Very welcome.
Okay.
So wait, Arthur, we have one more thing. Rachel?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we have a special presentation. Arthur, there were many people who wanted to express their good wishes to you, but thanks to the magic again of the internet, we are able to bring you some greetings, which selected from friends of yours over the years.
Oh, wow.
That's the end of it. That's everybody.
That's all I have to say.
There are really people on there, but you can't see them. They're very small.
It's very dark.
I think you have to push the start button. No? Oh, yes.
Good evening, everyone. I usually start my greetings by saying what a pleasure it is to join you on this occasion. But considering that this occasion is a farewell to Arthur, it is not a pleasure to say goodbye. It's more an opportunity to say thank you. Thank you, Arthur, for your activism. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you for your awareness. And thank you for being there in times of need. Arthur, I think everyone here knows that your commitment to the Jewish community started a very long time ago. As a child of Holocaust survivors, you were constantly reminded of what it meant to be Jewish, how strong values and perseverance can take you from heartaches to achievements. You never forgot, and you sought to embed strong Jewish principles in your children, making sure they had a Jewish education. Over the years, you saw the rise of critical issues that affected Jewish lives. You witnessed an increase in anti-Semitism, a polarization within our community, campaigns against Israel, and yes, even a pandemic. Yet you never stopped caring and seeking ways to strengthen our community. Your 2 tenures as national chairman of Friends of the IDF proved that this caring was not just here in the United States, but also reached all the way to Israel and to our soldiers. We all know that Arthur's chairmanship at the Conference of Presidents was not his first leadership role in Jewish communal affairs, and I'm confident it will not be his last. So while we bid farewell to him in this position, we can all look forward to his next endeavor. So Arthur, on behalf of the State of Israel, you have my appreciation for all you have done and my best wishes for continued success. Now, there is one last thing that I would like to add. With every farewell comes also a welcome. So I must extend my best wishes to you, Diane Loeb, the incoming chair of the Conference of Presidents. With the help of William, Malcolm, and the members of the conference, as well as with the help of us here at the consulate, I'm sure Diane will take on challenges ahead and strengthen our community even more. And I want to thank you all.
Dear Arthur, as you end your tenure as the chairman of Conference of the Presidents, I want to express my gratitude for the incredible work you have done for Israel and the Jewish people at large. More so, I want to say how much I cherish the friendship we share and the moments we spent together throughout the years. I wish you all the best going forward, and I know that whenever you land, you will continue your holy work for our people.
Dear Arthur, I want to bid you farewell and tell you how much I appreciate your leadership of the Conference of Presidents through these very stormy days and your contribution to the security and the well-being of the Jewish people all over the world, and especially in the United States and in Israel. I also want to tell you that I enjoyed very much our meetings and was deeply impressed by your knowledge, your curiosity, and your patience, especially your patience, in listening to my lengthy presentations and analysis. Thank you so much, and I wish you will find new opportunities to make a difference for the best interest of the Jewish people in the future. All the best, Yossi.
Dear Arthur, it's been a great pleasure to have worked alongside with you in the past 6 years. During this time, I find you as a great leader, a partner, and as a real friend. I feel that I had the honor and privilege of working with a man who did and contribute so much for his country and for the state of Israel. Arthur, you are a mensch, a real patriot, and a Zionist. And talking about Zionism, I can say that the fact that your two sons, Adam and Jordan, did a noble decision to serve in the IDF, in the paratrooper brigade, risking their lives to protect the state of Israel, is a testimony that can show it more than 1,000 words. So, my dear friend, as I look at you over the years, I am reminded of what our first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, said, and I quote, "Our future does not depend on what the world will say, but on what the Jews will do." I can say with full confidence that you fulfill this quote big time. Arthur, we cannot thank you enough for your commitment, dedication, love, and tireless effort for the state of Israel and her protectors. For me and for many others, you are a model, a beacon of light. I salute you and wishing you, Sylvia, and the Stark family all the best and much success. Hope to see you soon in Israel. Shalom and Lehitraot.
Bid you farewell, Arthur, and want to thank you for everything you did over these past few years for the Conference of Presidents. I can no longer speak on behalf of all Israelis because I'm not a sitting ambassador anymore, but I can tell you that from my point of view, you were just a tremendous partner and a real friend, somebody that I enjoyed working with over these last few years, and frankly, a real Jewish leader, and I don't use that word often. And I remember there were many times when the Prime Minister would come to either Washington or New York, and we would get a group of Jewish leaders together. And anytime we did that, it didn't matter how many leaders were invited, I would always get a call from a half dozen other people saying why they are not at that meeting, because they're a Jewish leader, they should be at that meeting as well. And I would kibitz with them a little bit and say, well, why don't you come to the Jewish followers meeting, because no one's going to be at that, and everyone will be at the Jewish leaders meeting. But I have to tell you, Arthur, and everyone else who's watching us, Arthur Stark is a real Jewish leader. And that's a word I don't use that often. And the reason why I say it are two things. First of all, he's somebody who always understood the difference between that which is critical and that which is not. And I think a Jewish leader always has to understand that not all issues are the same. Some of them are vital to the security of Israel, to the interests of the Jewish people, and some of them are issues that are important, but that are not the most critical issues. And making that clear distinction, I think, is important to any leader. The second thing is the leaders have to have followers. You can't be a leader without followers. And Arthur Stark is somebody who just attracts others to him, and he makes you want to work with him just because of his personality, because of how much he's a mensch, because you know you're dealing with a serious and good and decent individual. And I saw that throughout the years that I was privileged to serve as Israel's ambassador. And I know Arthur, and I expect that you will continue, you're too young to really retire, that you will continue to do whatever you can in whatever role you assume to help secure the future of the Jewish people. And I look forward to years and frankly decades of friendship, and I hope to greet you soon in Jerusalem.
Arthur, the Jewish community is forever indebted to your service. The conference has accomplished so much under your leadership, including the start of the Anti-Semitism Task Force initiative. You've devoted your life and career to addressing all aspects of Jewish life, continuity, and values. And for that, I thank you for helping guide our community into the future. As I work in Congress as the co-chair of the Senate Bipartisan Task Force for Combating Anti-Semitism, and as the global chair of the International Council of Jewish Parliamentarians, I'm grateful for your commitment to keeping American Jews, Israel, and Jews around the world safe and secure. It's been a privilege to work with you. Mazel tov on your successful leadership, and I look forward to seeing what you do next.
Wow. So I'm truly humbled. Thank you very much for William, Malcolm, Diane, whoever arranged that. That was, like I say, very humbling. So I want to thank you. It's a real gift.